What's going on, creators? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to continue the conversation on mental diets and really hopefully add something positive to your mental diet for today. You know, I find it really important to really fill your mind with things that are, you know, making you feel good, that are beneficial for your mind, your body, your spirit. Yeah, and getting out of a lot of these narratives that aren't even real. You know, a lot of them are illusions, and a lot of them are fear-based illusions that have no bearing on actual physical reality. You know, a lot of it is like worst-case scenarios and what ifs and division and separation. A lot of it's kind of reflective of the old mind, the mind of fear, and ultimately, once you become more and more mindful of the present moment, and you're able to observe your thoughts and observe even your feelings in a lot of ways, you start to ask yourself, is like, do I really want to continuously just spend this moment thinking about these worst case scenarios that will, you know, probably never manifest, but even if they do, you know, it'll probably happen totally different than the way I'm building it up in my mind. In a lot of ways, you know, using your your mind backwards, where it's like, you know, is it really helpful to think of these worst case scenarios when you realize that that has a big maybe part in manifesting those worst case scenarios in your life? Maybe it would be better to have like best case scenarios. Wouldn't that be great? You know, and I think that's possible. You know, especially when you start to catch those patterns faster and faster. When you see that you're creating illusions that aren't actually even there, you're just creating stories in your mind about a probably neutral event. You know, it's easy to get sucked into things. You know, I get sucked into like sometimes the media narratives, mainly because I've spent so much, like, you know, trying to wake people up and like, oh, what's Fox News say? Oh, what's CNN say? And then we'll find the middle ground in between so that we can, you know, and part of it has to do with like debunking like some of these narratives and stuff like that. But once you realize how much of that is just spells and not even reflective of reality, it could be reflective of reality. You know, if you believe that that's how reality is, you know, you could have two people, one of which maybe be me, and then another person, you know, for example, you know, sitting in like a waiting room, and somebody could, you know, believe they're in a pandemic, worst case dystopian reality. You know, and that could be how they're experiencing that waiting room. You know, meanwhile, I could, you know, be sitting next to them and have totally different things going on. You know, not have this media narrative going on in my mind. I should be observing the present moment. You know, thinking about things that bring me joy, and yeah, and it's like who's right, you know, and that's one of the things that I try to get away from anymore. Is just like I got to be right all the time, you know. Because it gets to a point, it's like, does it matter? Does it really matter? What does being right mean? You know, besides just inflating a sense of like superiority, which ultimately, when you start to realize how people are reflecting a lot of these inner conversations back to us, could be creating scenarios that are unfavorable. You know, so it's like you gotta see what's going on in your environment, in your life, your relationships, your job. You know, all of these like. I don't know, little check marks of society. You know, it's like the power level you have, the money situation you got, the relationships you got, your friends, your job, your responsibilities, all these things we have to steward in just our modern society, I guess. You know, and see which ones are working and which ones are not working. And as you're doing that, start asking yourself, is like, Am I creating an illusion with this, or am I creating a story? You know, creating an illusion in a story is very similar, because everything that we see in physical reality, we have a story about it in this weird little way. I mean, you see a dog, you know, walking by, and you know, instead of just seeing like an animal, like a you know, something outside of yourself, you're just like, oh, that dog looks like a dog I used to have when I was a kid, and then it brings all these emotions, these nostalgias. It's like, oh, I hope the dog's okay, and you know, all these things that we start telling all these stories we start telling ourselves about. And I notice that I do that with like we have chickens, and then like the turkey and the ducks that we got. You know, it's like project my own little stories onto them as they're living their little chicken lives. And you know, you get some of them that like to jump over the fence and get out into the yard, and you know, it tries to get them not to do that, because like just like the other day, I almost got attacked by a dog. I got home from doing a job, and like I see this dog, and it's pretty big. I mean, I wasn't intimidated by it. I'm not really intimidated by dogs at all, you know. And there, I mean, if I remember, you know, let me write this down about this dog story where I got bit really bad. I'll just write dog bite so I remember. But like you know, I've grown up around dogs, and I've like one of the dogs that, you know, I had when I was young. I used to really wrestle hard with it, and it would be very aggressive, and like yeah, and so I don't have like like grown fear. I don't know if that's the way to say it, but I don't have this big fear of dogs. That I know some people have that. Maybe if they're a criminal and they've been attacked by like a German Shepherd or something, you know. But like I get home and I see this dog. He's probably, I don't even know what kind of dog it was, like a mutt. You know, I live around a bunch of trailers. You're not seeing like $1,000 purebred dogs, you know. So it's like, it was like maybe like a 50, 60 pound, kind of like a maybe German Shepherd mix mutt. You know, it's like blondish color. You know, it wasn't like a Labrador. I don't know what it was, but you know, I seen it at my front door. You know, we let our cats outside, inside and out, and then we have the chickens. So I don't want some stray, hungry dog, you know, attacking my animals or whatever. So I don't look at it like, oh, it's a cute little dog. It's like, you gotta get this. What the fuck's this dog doing around here? You know, it's like, so I get out and it looks at me and then just runs away. But I seen it had a collar on it, so I didn't figure it was like a stray or like super vicious. But like you know, so I started following because I was gonna see if I can grab it by the collar and see where it lived, and then just take it home. And like, so I start following it, and as I'm following it, my neighbor, like right there, is like, he starts flipping out because that same dog, like they were sitting on their back stoop, and like stairs, like, you know, it's like a couple, like 3 steps. They like to sit out there, and they're sitting out there, like her and her mom, which her mom is like kind of like in a wheelchair and not very mobile, you know. So if shit went down, I mean, she's kind of just very vulnerable. And so like yeah, she's like, hey, be careful around that dog, it just tried to attack us. And I called the cops. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm not concerned about it, you know. It's like and as I was saying that, the cops rolled up, you know, and figured out it was like the next neighbor downs. And you know, the cop was out there and I was out there, and then the other neighbors were out there, and it started becoming kind of amped up. And like I told the cop, because the cop was there by himself, and I was like, hey, if this dog's dangerous or whatever, I mean, do you want me just to hang around if it attacks you? Because he was by himself. You know, he might have shot it. I don't, you know, he had you know, obviously had a gun, so I don't think he was that concerned about it, you know. But at the same time, you know, you don't want to just shoot people's pets. But like yeah, you know, come to find out, like yeah, it was like the neighbor was home and didn't know how he got out, and they thought, you know, he went to the back deck, and the cop took off because he thought he was handled. Well, the dog just ran out the other side, and it just ran away again. And so I started following it over there because I asked the guy, he's like, do you need help getting it? Because that guy was kind of like not very mobile either. He was an older guy, and I actually goes to the church I've been going to. And so yeah, I told him I would help him, and as I was like helping him, you know, the dog was giving me like it would look at me, and I didn't feel like very aggressive energy when it was like just running around. It just more of like, it was just didn't know what to do energy. But then I chased it kind of back to his property, but once it was on his property, then it got very territorial and aggressive, and you could just tell that flip in energy. And I feel like you with animals, and this is just my own projections and dramas, but you know, it's like you know, I feel like if you're around animals enough, you don't need them to speak to understand what they're trying to say, you know. And it's like, as soon as it got back to his property, and then also the more fear you have inwardly, I feel like animals can, especially like aggressive animals, can pick that up, and they'll just boundary push a lot like people do, you know. And a lot of times people just act like animals. If you're around enough animals, you kind of understand that. But like it was starting to, like, its hair and everything, and it started like showing its teeth and getting aggressive, and then it started charging at me, you know, and starting to, and I didn't move, and I didn't have a weapon or anything, you know. And it started like growling, and it started like going after my ankles, you know. And I had boots on, so I could have kicked it really hard in the face, and like I just didn't. But I didn't even do anything other than I just started hollering at it, like, you know, knock it off, you know. And you know, so it started charging, starts, you know, I didn't move, and it starts like trying to like attack my feet, but it didn't actually push that line. It didn't actually do it, which if you, again, like things with animals, but you know, it's like a lot of animals and even people, you know, don't like to take that next level up, you know, where it's like a physical encounter. You know, it's like a lot of even people, you know, and this is coming from someone who's been in jail, you know, and seen how things escalate into violence. And like a lot of times, you know, it's like there's levels to shit where, and a lot of it, you know, if you just like kind of remain conscious, those levels don't escalate. And that's the thing about like faith, is like sometimes you gotta stand in that faith when fucking shit's getting real. You know, it's sometimes yeah, it's sometimes like I get that from like spiritual people where it's like, oh, you're in theory land, you know, and talking about these metaphysical principles and things, and that's all fine and good, but you know, when shit hits the fan and things, you know, fucking start to spiral, you know, are you still able to stand in that faith and remain conscious and not just start spinning out in worst case scenarios, get drifting back into the old state, you know? And so, yeah, long story short with the dog, you know, you end up, it was like 40-minute ordeal, you know. I ended up, after he charged at me the first time, then the guy, he ended up trying to get him to the porch. He ran off again. I was like, you know, fuck this, I'm gonna get a stick. You know, if that dog comes at me again, I'm gonna whack it in the face. You know, because I have like a beating stick, you know, like you know, for the chickens, like if like a raccoon or something's like trying to attack them, you know, it's got this big stick. I just smack them real hard with it, you know. And like yeah, because I do live in town, so it's like I can't just go shoot, you know, a gun. I can, you know, but it would probably cause the cost to be involved. I probably wouldn't get in trouble. I don't know, because like it's kind of sketchy, because there was a guy that was shooting squirrels with a gun in town, the next town over, which is like another town I lived in, and he was just shooting them with a 22, and they were not thrilled with that. And so this town's bigger, and so I doubt they'd be very thrilled with that. I wouldn't really want to find out, you know. But like yeah, so yeah, once the dog scene, I had to stick. Then it started. Then it de-escalated the situation, and then like ended up getting wrestled inside, and you know, this thing was squashed. And before I forget, you know, about this other dog incident. You know, this is like during my drinking days. You know, I was at this party, and this guy had a gigantic fucking dog. I mean, it was like you think of like a drug dealer dog. You know, it was like something like that. He was like 100-something pounds, just ripped, you know, and mean, and like it had this thick collar on with a little tiny bell, and like yeah, I was like drunk, and like yeah, and everybody was kind of like amped up about this dog or whatever, and like again, I wasn't afraid of dogs. I'm still not afraid of dogs, and so I was like, I bet I could ring its bell, and they're like, you better not, you know, it's like it will attack you. And I was like, you know, we'll see, you know. And so, you know, I just like did like that with my fingers, you know, and rang his bell, and it did try to bite me really hard, but it missed. And like yeah, then everybody was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just did that, you know. And it's like, I'll do it again. And so yeah, I did it twice, and rang it 2 times, and it tried to bite me again. And like the third time, yeah, you know, I did it, and yeah, like I don't know if you can see that little, you can't see it that well. It's a tooth mark, you know, from where the dog bit me. You know, and it like bit me very hard, and like to the point I thought it broke my finger. And like yeah, it was crazy. But like yeah, long story short, don't ring junkyard dogs bells and expect not to get bit. You know. But like yeah, kind of back to what I was like saying though, is like you know, a lot of times, you know, we recreate all these different kind of stories and these situations and everything, and really got to ask ourselves is like, how much of that is past stories and narratives that we're projecting onto the right now, you know, because so much of like the new like kind of changing states is you can't occupy 2 states at the same time. And so much of like the old narratives, that we believe we're like a separate brain in a body, and that we're not connected at all to other people, and that we're victims of just random happenstance, not taking responsibility for our life and why things are happening. When we start to drop that story though, and realize that now is the only time that's real, and if I'm not feeling happy now, if I'm not feeling joy, if I'm not feeling good, if I'm not feeling how I want to be, feeling, we're embodying a state. We're always embodying a state. And so it's like, do you want to continue to embody it, or do you want to choose to embody a new state? And part of that is, catching the illusions that we create, and telling ourselves a new story about it. I was just like talking to my wife this morning. We were just like kind of working on the cafe, and she was like, oh, do you do an LLC? Do you do a sole proprietor? All these kind of business questions, and it was just like, I got kind of triggered, I guess, by it, and it's, and I can be kind of a smart ass, and it's like, oh, well, how much do you feel like, trying to hide and shift money around? It's just like, do you want the textbook reason, or do you want like a real life practical application? Because if you have an LLC, you can start hiding money and like shifting money around, and like doing a lot more kind of, put the money over here, we don't tax it, and you pay yourself very little, and pay little in taxes, but you have this kind of whatever over here that you could just get into whenever you wanted, and so and a lot of times, like when it comes to like businesses and jobs and everything, like it's amazing the amount of stories and narratives, people, believe about that, when it's basic, I don't know, say it's basic, but it's like the core of doing like business things, is just like providing a service or product that somebody wants, and so it's like there's all of these like complications and all these stories we can tell ourselves about it, and it's like, well, there's all these little check marks to do, and it's like, you don't got to do most of that. Most of that shit is stuff that you think you got to do. It's and there are types of illusions. There are types of overcomplicating things, convoluting things, making things a lot more difficult than they need to be. It's like if you bring it back again to the present moment, and you could be sitting in, like, I could be sitting in this office, or my studio, whatever you want to call this space, and it's like, oh, there's this story, there's that story, and it's, oh, an LLC and a sole proprietor, and we're gonna do this and that and that, and then it's like, is that the story I want to just be telling myself? Is this just running on autopilot? Is this what I want to be thinking about? If I can make the choice to think about something, and especially when you start to realize how your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, your assumptions, how that has an impact on your day-to-day life and physical reality. At least your perception of reality, at most reality, kind of like physically mirroring that and changing and being fluid in this type of kind of metaphysical way, which I've experienced, on that kind of stuff. And you can experience that too, where it's like, maybe you think about somebody and next thing they call you, that's kind of like some real world application for that, and it's like, how is that possible? I just had thought about you, and now you're here, or you have like a weird thought, and next thing somebody has like in front of you at a gas station answers what you were just thinking about. It's these types of things where these inner conversations start to become mirrored, and a lot of times people unconsciously are having their fears mirrored, and thinking that's just the way things are, when so much of that is a reflection of the fears and the what ifs and the worst case scenarios, and the feeling guilt and shame and all of these kinds of attributes from the old nature, from the old man, as the Bible would say, and not really focusing so much attention on the new man, which is your spirit man, your beingness, which if you look at this graphic, where it's like kind of like projects inward and outward like that, it's important to realize that there's also kind of this veil, and what I mean by that is like where you are. Let's make that big, and that's too big. Yeah, so it's like kind of distinguish that even more, because it can almost kind of feel like you are the brain and the body with this kind of image, but you're actually like the mind, and not the brain, but like the consciousness. When you strip away everything, and you just know that you exist. I mean, you can be in a dark room, you can be in a cave, you have no light at all, you can just be in one of those kind of environments. You just know that you exist. And that might be hard for some people to comprehend, but it's like that I am existing ness. Whether you're alive, whether you're dead, whether you're in heaven, you're in hell, you know that you exist. It's like, it's that consciousness. And where that consciousness is, a lot of people believe is in the brain, but it's more of like the brain's receiver of that consciousness. Where you actually are is on the other side of the mirror, where it is actually, more, your body is a reflection even of your beingness, but like, for simplicity's sake, you kind of contain your mind over on this side of the veil, where the shadow is on the other. And the shadow over here, the projection, what we see and experience in the 3D. This would be the 3D, and this is where we're kind of seeing this. But even where you're seeing that, you can still perceive this from over. Maybe I shouldn't put the arrow upward like that. We put it down. It's like maybe the easiest way to interpret that is more like you're the dreamer of the dream. And out here is the actual dream playing out. It's like you animate the out here kind of by your stories and your narratives and your beliefs, and ultimately your connectedness with God and your relationship with God ultimately is being mirrored out here. But yeah, it's one of those things you start to learn by experience as you start changing those inner conversations. And let's get rid of all that crap. Yeah, I don't know how to get rid of that easily. I just do one of these. Let's try not to have too much stuff going on here. But like yeah, and so when it comes to the illusions, you can think of everything existing outside, in like the 3D world, the shadow world, as being somewhat neutral, because all things are created by God. It's all reflecting God's consciousness in this way, but like, not to sit there and judge these different things in like the relative world, because all states exist, and some of those states are very, in separation. It's almost like hell's over here, heaven's over there, but both of which are states of mind that you can embody now. And it's like the old man was, virtually embodying states of hell, fear, suffering, torment, while the new is expressing more joy, bliss, goodness, feelingness, and connectedness with God. And it's also important to realize that a lot of the understandings about your creator from like the old man versus the new man are different, because if you think of like your old like life or whatever, or your old mindset, I guess, about life, I guess maybe the easiest way is to speak from own personal experience, where it's like my old kind of beliefs about like God and everything was like, oh, there's like a gray bearded person in the sky that's just like angry and wants to just like judge and condemn me. That was like my old belief about what God was. Whereas like this like new understanding is different. Where it's like you start to realize this like this connectedness inside. There's like seeking the kingdom, as Jesus would say. And it's like it's important to like kind of get into the Bible and just look at what Jesus was saying to do, because it's already been done. It's like you don't got to keep searching and like what do I need to find out? It's like Jesus already told you what to do. It's like you don't got to reinvent the wheel. It's already been done, and it's already laid out very clearly. It's just applying those principles is where it gets to be kind of challenging, I guess, where it's like actually standing in faith, because it's one thing to like to read about the things that like Jesus was saying like to do. It's like another to walk on water. So it's like, how do you get from point A to point B? I think for me it's just these incremental growths in faith through facing fear, which is ultimately, in my opinion, the absence of faith. God is love, and the complete opposite of love is fear. But at the same time, you're told in the Bible to fear God. But the thing of it is we already do that. It's like a lot of people get triggered by like, oh, you gotta fear God. You gotta fear God and all this and that, and it's like people get like, what, why, how? It's like you are already afraid of God. It's like every fear that you have, look at that and realize that in some way, that fear is probably related to your fear of death, which is ultimately related to feeling like you're going to be separate from God and cast into hell. And that's at least from my experience of it. At least, it might be different for you, but a lot of and it's weird things when it comes to fear, where it's like, how is that related to death? But a lot of ways it trickles back to it, and so it's like, take your fears to God so God can, a lot of times those fears are just from like errors in thinking, and most of those errors are thinking that you're separate and that some external God in the sky is going to torment you and punish you forever and ever and ever. Part of that belief, when you start to really look at it, it's like, does that sound like an ego belief? Does that sound like an old mindset where it's like you can effortless and easily just break God's will, just unconsciously? It's like, how weak do you think God's power and will is, that you can just just little old me in the body can just do whatever, and that God has no control over that. It's once you realize that, then it's like, oh, it's like I'm already doing God's will. It's like it's not possible, for me to just effortlessly and easily break God's will. Especially when you have like made the intention to walk in that path. It's because so much of the old mind is just guilt, shame, not feeling good enough, all these things. And then what starts to happen is, as you believe those things are real, then the external reality starts to confirm those things. So it's like you believe it more and more. So it's like you feel, if you feel guilty, it's like people on the outside will start condemning you for the things that you feel guilty for. And it's like, what was that Bible verse? Like, blessed is the man that doesn't condemn himself. Let me pull that up. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord. That's a good one. But like, blessed is the man who doesn't. Now let's see what it is. Romans 14. So whatever you believe about these things, keep between yourself and God. Blessed is the man who does not condemn himself by what he approves, but the man who has doubts is condemned if he eats, because his eating is not from faith, and everything that does not come from faith is sin, which is kind of the definition of sin in like the new covenant that Paul describes to us. Where it's like, you can really get balls deep into that. Where it's just like the law was given by Moses, but then you see these different they call them dispensations, but I believe there are also different states of consciousness that we all kind of pass through as our soul evolves, from like the state of Adam to through every part of the Bible, so it's like just even hearing some of these like faith-filled words, and like taking action, it's like kind of represents like a state of consciousness equivalent to like Abraham, where he heard, and by hearing, he started, but I don't really want to get into super deep into that. I can get super deep into that, in another time. But that's for you guys to kind of get into your own experience of life. But like what I want to kind of just remind everybody is like catching these illusions faster and faster, and realize that God is the giver. God gives you life, gives you everything that you've already been like pleading for and praying and petitioning God for. You've already been blessed. It's already been given to you. It's yours now. And so embody the state. Ask, believe. believe, and receive. A lot of the believing is in your state of being, moving from that old of maybe scarcity to abundance, because you can't embody two states at the same time, and so if you and your thoughts are reflective of the state that you're being, and so if you're getting maybe a lot of like thoughts that you're making you feel like shit, and you're just projecting all these these stories, these narratives on things, start to ask yourself, if it's like, would you be thinking that if you're in heaven? If you knew that you were in a heaven, would that thought even cross your mind? Probably not. And so it's like, well, that's a good sign. You're into separation and that kind of mentality of the old person that you were. You're new. Everything is new, and in that newness, every thought that you have will be basically translated by the Holy Spirit, to correct the error in thinking to the truth. And so all you have to realize is the problem and the solution is in the same issue. It's like, oh, I'm worried about this problem and that problem, and like the solution is, oh, I don't got to worry about that. God's already given the answer to that. That's already been taken care of. And that might be hard for some people to kind of step out in faith and do that. But the more that you do it, the more that you see that that's real, and how powerful your faith actually is. And so when it comes to and I get some people like with their interpretations of the Bible and everything, where it's just like, the old man wants to follow these external rules. It's like it needs these rules because it believes it's bad. It means that it's like, if I just follow these rules, then I'll be good because I'm inherently bad. Is what the old mind thinks for some reason. It's like Neville Goddard would say, like every religion out there is in the state of John the Baptist. Where it's like it just needs all these rules and just all of these external things to keep them in line because they're so inherently bad. Just step out of that for a second. Why do you think that why do you think that something God created, which is you, is inherently bad, when God says that you're a masterpiece? And it's like, you really got to start to reprogram your thinking, if you keep falling into these traps, and think of God being the giver, almost like the sun. The sun is shining whether you believe it's shining or not. What you can do is close the curtain and then tell yourself a story of why it's not so bright in your room. And that has to, and that analogy is very applicable for the illusions that we have in our life. And those could be work illusions, money illusions, relationship, all of these projections that we put onto other things that close that curtain of love and feeling good and feeling joyful, like right now. It's like, why can't you feel that way right now? Why can't you feel so blessed, like you're the most loved person in creation? I don't know. That just triggered me because I don't feel worthy. I don't feel good enough. And so it's like, God's love's always shining on you. That energy is always on you, and it's within and it comes out. But you can create illusions and shut the curtain and tell yourself all these stories. Well, God must be mad at me now because of this and that, and because it's not so. But then it's like you just don't realize that you're the one shutting the curtain when you don't have to shut the curtain, And so, yeah. With that being said, I think I'm going to bounce. I got my guy. He's out painting. I got that pretty big job, and we got 1, 2, 3 bedrooms done. He's about got everything rolled. We got a big hallway, living room, dining room, kitchen, 2 bathrooms. The other bathroom should be done, and so, yeah. Hopefully he gets all that rolled on there, and we got another job hanging shutters by some windows, and so after lunch he's going to do that. I'm going to go back over to that job and trim paint, and so hopefully that goes pretty. I kind of find painting to be relaxing. Hopefully do more and more painting. I like that, it's like I feel like I'm good at it. I've been painting for a long time, and so where it's like drywall works, like kind of, I don't mind that either, doing the mudding, but the sanding, I have a drywall sander, which makes it nice to knock a lot of shit out, but you still got to do a sanding block, and then it's dirty, and yeah, and so, yeah, other than that, the chickens are producing a lot of eggs, which is fun. Yeah, it's they got all these different colors too. It's like we got Easter eggers, which is like blue eggs or green eggs, like, and it's like one of the eggs is like, it's like almost like a bluish color, but then you hold it in your hand and get it warm, and then it turns like, then it changes color to like a light green. And I was at this like grocery store the other day, and just for like these like happy eggs or whatever, it was like $8 for a dozen of them. It's like, what the fuck, it's like, that's crazy. But it's like, it's kind of awesome not having to buy eggs ever, and like, realizing like, the diet that they have, knowing what's like gone into these birds, and they're not abused, and like they have a good life, I guess, as far as like chickens have. I mean, I don't know if like people in cities like have any experience with like animals, except for like people behaving like animals. But like being around like farm animals and stuff, it's like kind of a different vibe. I don't know how to describe it other than that, but it's just like just being around these different creatures, and seeing how I find it interesting. But like I said, I people watch, but then I animal watch. I'll go outside and watch the chickens, and just like kind of like narrate it like I'm watching National Geographic or something. It's just like, kind of seeing which ones are dominant. Then they got three of them that just love to jump the fence and just get out into the yard. It's the same ones every time. And then we got one that's, I don't even know what it is, it's solid black. It's just like friendly. It's like the only friendly one that's like, I wouldn't say it likes to be picked up, but it doesn't mind it, and like you can touch it and pet it, and it just likes it, I guess. But the other ones, you do that and they just like flip out and they just like run away. And the turkey, I don't know, we got a couple weeks, and then I gotta kill the turkey and eat it, and so kind of like processing that then too. I've been kind of trying to figure out the best ways to like kill it as fast as possible, and I have a little saw, because I was thinking about taking an axe and just like grabbing it by the head and just doing one of them. But then I was thinking, I have this like saw that's got a blade like maybe like that big. I was just thinking about like grabbing it and just with the saw. I might have to, and I think what I'm going to do when it gets a little bit closer to that, I don't want to like do a bunch of like research or whatever, but it's like thinking about buying like a chicken neck and like trying different things to see. And this is just, I don't know if that's going to be a big deal or not, but like see about that saw, see if that was like a quick way to do it, because he's pretty big. I mean, he's like probably 25 pounds, maybe more, and bulky, and his feet are pretty intense, I mean, they're big, and so it's like I might need help, holding him down, just so it doesn't, not that I couldn't hold him down, but it's just like, I just don't want to miss, it's like, I just want it to be a quick, just done, that's my goal, not it's moving around and I'm grabbing it and I just like nick its neck or something like that, and then it's just a nightmare, and that might be hard to hear for some people, but like, I'm not a vegetarian, and so it is what it is. It's just other than that, I think that's about it. I've been uploading these videos and stuff to Bitchute, which I think I'm going to continue to move my YouTube content to Bitchute. Not that I'm going to delete like YouTube, but like I just feel like with everything going on, it's like, do I, and I don't feel like I'm getting I don't know. I just don't want to support businesses that I find to be questionable, and it sucks because there's been so many years where like I've really liked Google's like products, I guess, but then when it's like kind of drifting to the exploitation side of things, I don't know, that's not maybe the best word, but it's just their business practices are becoming more and more narrative driven, I guess. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like I'm not into this kind of this bullshit, you know, and I feel like a lot of it's just upside down backwards bullshit, you know, where it's just like, you know, it's such a small, I feel like it's such a small minority of people that are just very vocal, you know, and it's just like, I'm glad that shit doesn't happen in where I live, you know. It's just like, I feel bad for like maybe people in like and again, I don't know how much of that's real versus just like from where I live, you know, like looking through like the veil or whatever. I don't know, but it just seems so fucking. Oh, we're trying to be so like worldly and cosmopolitan that like, yeah, everything's fine. I don't know. I just. And I wouldn't consider myself even like conservative, you know, but it's just like yeah, I just find it to lack logos and logic. Yeah, or, you know, and I don't want to make any kind of claim or kind of like whatever, because I'm not mad at you people. I'm like I just find you people, you know, I don't know, it's just not for me. You know, I prefer things kind of, I don't know. But with that being said, you know, I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, and yeah, I appreciate your spiritual support and your financial support. And I might put the link to like the BitChute account. You know, if people are starting to drift into more BitChute type things, you know, definitely subscribe and hit me up on there. Um, yeah, other than that, I think that's it. So, you know, until the next now, have a good day, night, now, and God bless.